All right, welcome everyone to our Mompreneur panel, sponsored by Women with Voices. Today we have with us 3 badass mompreneurs. Okay, with us we have Alexis Berard Cutler, we have CLOE Love, and then we have Sue Fearless. Would you ladies mind introducing yourself? Who wants to go first?
Hi everybody, I'm Sue Fearless and I'm the founder of Fearless Women, and Fearless Women is an organization that helps to empower women through different educational resources, and I'm super happy to be here today. Thank you for having me.
All right, who's next?
I say we go with Alexis. I hate going.
Hi, I'm Alexis Berard Cutler, and I live in Brooklyn. I have 2 boys, and I'm the founder of a platform and community for mothers called Not Safe for Mom Group, where moms can talk about all the shit they can't talk about at drop off.
Okay.
We can curse here.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Yeah, this stuff that you can't even talk to your closest friends about, you bring it to Not Safe for Mom Group, and it's a judgment-free, very safe space. And I'm so glad that I met you both and that we're going to have this conversation today. And thanks for having me.
Yes. Well, I'm CLOE Love. I am the founder of Women with Voices and the CEO of Brook Brothers Music and CLOE's Corner. I am a mom of 2 boys and a few godkids. And I'm happy to be here. I'm happy for this conversation. I am a part of Hey Mama with Alexis, and I met Sue. How did we meet, Sue?
You were so gracious to honor me at one of your Women with
I met you
Voices
before
events.
that.
Did we?
I was on your show.
Yes.
Yeah, and me and Sue, we've been rocking for a while, and we're just here to just create great things. Women with Voices is about women's empowerment, bringing resources and opportunities like this for women to come together and empower each other while empowering community. So that's what we're here to do today, and I'm grateful for that.
Awesome. So real quick, Sue, how many kids do you have?
I have 2 children, yes.
All right, so everybody has 2 children here.
Yes.
Wow.
Okay, all right now.
Synchronicity.
I just
Oh God, okay, so let's just jump right on in. So actually, let everybody know, are you all entrepreneurs?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, we're all entrepreneurs, and we also know that they're mothers of 2. So before you had children, what was life like before? Were you an entrepreneur? Just give me a little brief. What was life like before you had children? Anybody start?
I guess you go. Yeah, I can start. So it's funny because I'm an earth sign. We were talking about that earlier. So I've always been very into my studies, into my education, straight A student, but I always had like a wild creative side. So that wild creative side also always led me into like entrepreneurial endeavors. So when I was really young, I remember I used to sketch like outfits that I wanted to wear. I also was pretty much into music like a lot and kind of saved my life. I still use it now a lot. I listen to music all the time, but I used to stop and record my voice onto instrumentals. Yes, and that's how I used to express myself verbally. And then also I used to love dance. So in my dance classes, I used to help choreograph a lot of the dances and things like that. So I definitely always saw myself as an entrepreneur, and someday I would, figure out what platform was my purpose. So yeah.
Okay, that's beautiful. All right, who's gonna go next?
I'll keep with the.
Okay, you keep the momentum? All right, cool.
I never thought that I would want to have my own business. My background was in children's book publishing. That was my first job out of college, and I stayed for a decade in children's book publishing. Worked at Random House Books and HarperCollins, and I moved up the ladder to, I guess as high of the ladder that you possibly could. And then the company I was working for closed up shop, moved to Paris. That week I found out I was pregnant with my first son. And I was like, well, I'm not going to be making any interviews with a, belly, I guess. So I started ghostwriting and had to build up this whole new career of, I guess, entrepreneurship, trying to sell myself as a writer and getting freelance gigs. And it wasn't until he got a little bit older that I realized that having your own business and being an entrepreneur is really how you get freedom. And I was really tired of always being dependent on my partner. He, as much as we have this wonderful trusting relationship, I had gotten really lazy. And I was like, he's taking care of me. It's great. I made the decision to bear children and kind of stay home and have this cute little writerly job. But it wasn't enough for me anymore. And I was like, I want to bring shit to the table and I want to own it. And I don't want you to be able to always make decisions because you have the financial power at the end of the day. So my goal for the past couple of years is building this brand. Not Safe for Mom Group is not a not-for-profit. We are trying to make profit. It's a community that helps people, but I'm also trying to make it a business. And the women that work for me are also moms that are trying to make money. So I think it's really important for women to be able to stand on their own, and I'm glad that that's where I'm headed now.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. So it seems, so we have creative spirit here before you had your children. And when it came to you, you weren't entrepreneurs yet. Actually, your experience having the pregnancy is kind of what led you down that path. And then of course your job moving and things like that. So we have 2 scenarios thus far. Let's get into Chloe's story. How was life before you had a baby?
Oh, let's say we should. I'm glad I got my kids. But I wanted to say that I think that your story is amazing that people heard that, because people think that kids are a career death sentence.
Yeah.
And what you just told us is that not only are they not a career death sentence, but they're also the thing that can fuel the fire to create and think outside of the box.
Yeah. And I think they can also empower you.
Yes, yes,
I didn't
yes.
even think I could ask for anything until I became a mother.
That's so beautiful.
Like,
And I'm
she's
just
gonna make me cry.
Don't make such. So I think that that's amazing that you said that, and it just made me also feel so much more empowered also to be a mom and to sit here and talk to other mompreneurs. Before I had my kids, I kind of was the same but different, right? So I always knew, like, Corilla's my girl, everybody knows, right? Corilla DeVille is everything to me. I was like, this is a businesswoman and they're writing her as a bitch because she's in power. Okay, she killed some puppies, but they were for some good jackets, right? Nobody was doing that. So I saw the opportunity that Corella saw and how she was labeled for doing what a man would have done. And I saw that early in my life. So I knew that I wanted to step into my own and be this powerful person, and not in power of like, look at me, I'm so famous, but in power of also being able to empower people to unlock the special gifts within them. So I always knew that. Before I had my kids, again, I knew what I wanted, but after I had my kids, it was like the supernova fire kicked in. It's like, not only do I want this for me, but I have to create this for my legacy. When I'm far gone here, I have to make sure that anything they want to do, they have the resources, the knowledge, the ability to do so. So I think before I had kids, I was never lax because I was on a mission since 6. But I think it just went from not lax to OD obsessive after I had the kids. And then, the things like lack of self-care and the obsessive behavior and the goals, work is what I think I became after I had the kids.
Okay.
I
So,
do want to add something.
I was gonna say, please add, because they already touched on what's next. So your turn.
It's so funny that you mentioned that having children, some people feel like it's a career death sentence, because I kind of felt that way a little bit when I had my children. So I was the complete opposite.
What age did you have?
So I had them really young. I did, yes. I have 2 teenagers and my daughter's here today. But I was quite the opposite. So I wanted to be an entrepreneur earlier on, and I think that's like a Capricorn thing too. Like, you'll want to run your own business. But then when I had my children, I kind of took the easy way out, in the sense that I wanted to have a career that I would be able to put food on the table for my children. I wanted to have structure. So I completely put all of my creativity to the side.
Out. Let me tell you.
Okay.
Nothing about what you're saying. It's the harder important decision that you thought you had to make. So kudos to you for that. There's nothing easy about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I found myself, just I kind of lost all creativity, and my life became very black and white because I was in corporate. So it took me a long time to finally get that spark back. And I think being around women like yourselves helped me do that because I saw that these women, they're moms and they're out there going after theirs and they're taking risks. I can do that. What happened to my spark? So I'm glad I was able to find that. And I do want to add in the word workpreneur, because I was a workpreneur for a very long time.
Yeah.
So I was still working while building my business. And that was very difficult because I was like you, work, goals, check off the list and things like that, and then while still raising my children. So, it's been a tough journey, but it definitely can be done. And it's wonderful to see how everyone discovers their journey in so many different ways. Yes.
I love that word. I've never heard word for
Me neither. We gonna go on that.
Yeah.
Go on, Sue. She fearless.
That was lovely. I enjoyed that whole everything. Okay, cool. So you guys pretty much touched on the next question that I have, but I guess let's segue into what did you feel was tough once now you have your kids, now you discovered that I want to stand on my own. You are already how you are. It just became beast mode. Your journey, now you're coming back into yourself. How was life, I guess, now that you have your child? How is life? You have your child, you have your business going. How are things?
Yeah, so
How are you?
I think for me, much like CLOE, I knew that I wanted to leave a legacy for my children. Okay. So I knew that at some point I had to get back to what my roots were, to what I loved, and what my passion was. And till this day, I try to get them to help me out with so many things. But I know with teenagers, it's on their own time. But yeah, I think for me, it was just starting to build that legacy. Also starting to show them that if you don't want to go down the traditional way, it is fine. And I overheard somebody talking earlier about as long as you just have a plan, then I'm okay with it. So I talk to my children a lot about that. So yeah, just showing them that there's different ways that you can be successful in life. It doesn't have to be the traditional way, going through college and getting into the corporate world. You can also start your own business and be creative.
So
And
what about you? How's it been?
Yeah, I was gonna say, Sue,
again,
how are you?
There's no Sue in this.
How are you?
We tend to do that, right?
Okay, but I was going to
I'm over here
say,
talking.
Yeah.
that's why I wanted to ask, how are you guys?
How am I?
Because I feel like I'm not a mother as yet, but I'm around mothers.
Yeah.
I babysat for mothers, and I
You
see a
step
lot of
in as a mother. Let me
Okay.
say that. Let's not take away from what she does. Ashley steps in as a mother for my kids as Chelsea.
Okay.
I have great godmothers. I have a great foundation. And when I say a mother, I'm talking about we need a babysitter. We have to spiritually check her energy first before we let her in the house. Like Ashley is a mother. She's very maternal. She just hasn't pushed out a child yet.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
She's definitely a mother.
It's so important to have your village, your tribe. So,
Trust me.
Okay.
how do I feel? Overwhelmed.
I'm taking care of you. Yeah.
Yeah, how
I'm overwhelmed a little bit,
Yeah.
but I find ways to balance myself out. I think how do I take care of myself?
How are you finding ways to balance? Please share.
It's very
Yes,
difficult.
please.
I think time is a major factor, and it's hard because you try to fit in everything into a 7-day week. So I think just making sure that you put on your calendar days for you to rest, days for you to sleep. Sleep is super important for me because not only do I want to age well.
Okay. That's
Don't forget that. The skin didn't come from anywhere.
Exactly. But I also want to have energy to be able to do everything that I want to do and give it my best effort. I found myself sometimes running around everywhere and always late all the time because I was trying to fit in so many things in one day, and I was just tired. I had lack of energy. I didn't put my best foot forward. So definitely resting. Like CLOE was mentioning, I am also gonna start with my daughter, like a skincare regimen of some sorts, because I am getting older.
I love it.
And something that I mentioned in a Zoom session that I had was, we live in New York City. There's like so many hotels that are inexpensive right now. If you need a day away from your children, book yourself a room. Yes, book yourself a room, bring your laptop, work, rest, get in the tub, you know, run the tub, put some roses in there, candles, like that's super important. So I think those are a few ways that I definitely make sure that I'm okay.
I love that. I really enjoyed the hotel one.
Yeah.
I was there with her.
Yeah.
I was running that water. I was
One night standard.
Yeah,
Like a standard hotel. If you just go on one night standard,
Oh, seriously?
Oh, okay.
yeah, a last minute rate at the
Ooh,
hotel.
you're gonna put those links in the
Yeah, they have to go down.
Yes.
One night standard.
Mhm.
They already know.
They'll need it.
Just a whole bunch of ladies by themselves. At the tub and lots of wine.
Yes, and your glass of wine. That is so important because when you're home, even though you try to focus, even if you close your bedroom door, it's still really difficult because your kids are, you know, they want your attention at some point. And even me, I have teenagers and sometimes they're to themselves, but even then, I'm like making sure that they're okay. They're not too much on social media. They're okay mentally. They're not stressed out as well, you know, and going through things. So yeah, just she knows sometimes I disappear for a day.
I could imagine.
Yeah.
But how are, I'm just gonna stay here with you real quick. So how do you manage all of this stuff? How are you managing that?
30-day calendar.
Okay.
Put it on your calendar.
So much of A-type personality.
Oh yes, so I am very.
Because I learned this working with Sue.
Yes, I'm very type A, so definitely I have a lot of things written down, and that's how I hold myself accountable when I keep some type of structure. So a 30-day calendar, just calendar it in, even if it's just like once a month, if that's all you can fit in. That one day a month is gonna make you feel so great.
It's a written calendar.
Like,
Yes.
she lives over
I do. If I would lose my calendar right now, if something happened to my phone, I don't know what I would do. I don't know what I would do, yeah. And one more thing I want to add, I've been working out a lot too.
Okay.
That has also helped change my life because at first it started for physical fitness.
Yeah.
I want to look good, you know, but once I started running and I'm outdoors, the weather's nice, it's like a spiritual cleansing. Like I feel so amazing. And sometimes I come home and I'm like stressed out. I'm like, Maya, come take a walk with me in the park.
Ooh.
Amazing. So and that's half an hour, 40 minutes. You can add that to your day.
And so you actually take like a day of rest that you schedule during the week?
You really sleep?
Back to the
Okay,
yes. Like I just can't even, I love the concept, but like, can you do it? You do it?
I try to, maybe not every week, but I try to. At least once every 2 weeks, I'm in bed all day,
No.
resting. Yeah.
Wow.
I look to daughter just to be with me.
Well, it probably happened less often during that time. But yeah, because even like during quarantine, I found myself like even more busy than before. I was like trying to learn all these new things, and I'm like on different podcasts and different Zooms, and you know, learning how to invest in stock and things like that I've always wanted to do. So I was like, whoa, this is overload. I need to shut the computer off.
Okay.
That's a good point.
So Alexis, how about you? How have you taken care of you?
Well, I mean, I've been a mess.
I love Alexis. I'm gonna keep it real, but not say mom.
Yeah, no, it's been a really bad year, just really hard year. My kids have been up and down. And when your kids are not okay, like it just sits really heavily.
How old are your kids?
I have a 9-year-old will be 10 in September. My little one just turned 7.
Okay.
Yeah, but like, you know, one of my kids has some like needs, some special needs, and it's just been really hard managing when you have a kid who has stuff going on. It's emotional. It's like it weighs heavily on you when your kids are unhappy and you just haven't been able to support them in quite the right way. And also as a leader of a community where people come to you and tell you their problems, and I'm in my DMs and I'm getting like 100 messages a day of women who are struggling all over the world, going through things like, domestic violence, addiction, miscarriages, and they're not supported by their communities in the regular way that they would normally, because we're not allowed to be near one another. Or, people who are pregnant and couldn't bring their partners to their, doctor's visits, or people who are on their journey towards motherhood and suddenly IVF had to stop. Stuff like that, or people with sick parents that they couldn't visit. There were just, everyone was going through something, and I just was like feeling it in my body, because I'm an empath. And it was just really rough. So it was hard. And then my kids were home, so I had no time to do the self-care. I tried the meditation. I'd be like 5 minutes in, some kid is like walking on my stomach, dog sniffing my face. I was like, you guys, this is just not okay. So I have a therapist I see. I have a psychiatrist. We upped my meds.
Okay.
I feel like nothing helped.
No, I didn't expect it to take that turn.
I mean, it was hard because sometimes there's no quick fix.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I was drinking more, which is how we met, because I was talking about drinking on the talk
And I was
show.
like, me too, girl.
Yeah.
What's your number? What's your number?
Yes.
And that doesn't help if you're already having some mental
Yeah.
health issues, but it feels good at the time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, luckily my husband's really supportive and he listens. Like, he doesn't talk back very much. Like, when you're like, I want to share my feelings. He's like, tell me more. He's at least there, like, observing.
Okay.
Occasionally gives me like a back rub, but like, it's nice to have a partner. I know there's like a privilege in having someone in your house who's not 5 to talk to. Or under, right? Yeah. So, and now that things are opening and you can see your girlfriends again and have dinner, I feel like there's a little bit of more light and brightness coming back into life.
Okay.
So I'm doing better than before, and I just went to Miami with one of my best girlfriends,
Oh, I love
and that was the best self-care that I can tell you I've ever done. And I just was like, I looked at her, I said, everything that we've been doing this entire time, like every moment I'm looking in, I'm thinking, this is exactly where I want to be and exactly what I want to be doing. So there are times when your soul is just like, you're feeding me all the stuff I want.
Come on now. And you're feeding your soul when it really feels good.
It felt so good.
You better go ahead. And I'm like, what you gotta do is pencil it in. Okay? You gotta pencil it in.
But I'm glad that you mentioned, the women that were, like domestic violence that were stuck at home during this time with their abuser. That's something that I thought about a lot.
It was bad.
So I'm a domestic violence survivor, and that's one of the first things that hit my thoughts when we were mandated to stay at home. I was like, oh my God, what are these women gonna do now? And I know it's not only women, but it's predominantly women that go through this. And I'm like, what are they gonna do now when no one's making those visits? Already we have issues with officers who don't wanna answer those calls or who don't really care. So what are we gonna do now that they really can't have that type of interaction with us anymore? And even children who are going through child abuse at home when ACS was not coming out at all either. So I did think about that, and I'm glad you brought that to light, because that's something I struggled with in the beginning. I didn't know how to speak to my community. I didn't know how to speak to my women when we first got into this quarantine, into this COVID. Because I just wasn't in the right mind space. So I didn't, I almost felt like, you see how they talk about, what is it, imposter syndrome? What is it?
Okay, yes.
Not imposter syndrome, I'm sorry. It's slipping my head. But I felt like I couldn't share from a vulnerable space. Like I didn't know what to say to my community because I was also feeling down. So whatever advice I was giving them, I kind of had to take it to myself first and get my mental space there before I shared with my community. So I'm glad you emphasized on that.
That's always the best advice though when it comes from a place of authenticity, because it came about from a necessity.
Exactly.
So that's
And sometimes
amazing.
people don't even need advice, they just want you to hear them.
That's true.
Right.
Just to know, because people are alone
Exactly.
and they don't know who they can tell.
Yeah.
And there were so many people that were just wondering, like, is this abuse?
Mm.
There are a lot of women that just don't even know, but they know,
Yeah,
but they want someone to validate.
exactly.
Like,
Absolutely.
can you tell me if this, and this means I'm in an abusive relationship? And they want to know from other women.
Yeah,
And usually the answer is yes.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was really rough time.
I don't get a lot of those questions. I usually get the credit questions. I get the other questions.
Oh,
You know, I don't get all of those questions. But I mean, I'm open.
Yeah. But I guess also the kind of, because I know you, Sue has her group.
Yeah,
Your group. I think it depends on the kind of group that you've cultivated.
Yeah,
for
I
your
wonder
friend.
if people feel like they can't talk to me about that because I come across as that.
Well, I think they know I think they know what you're.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I think they know what you're into, so they don't know that they can
Maybe
come
because
to
they
you.
know what I'm into.
But
they
here we
don't
are with
tell
our
me.
Mompreneur panel,
Yeah.
and it's coming up, so
They
that
are speaking about it.
they know that you're.
Definitely, that person will be like, he did what? What's your address? You know, so I think that's probably why they don't tell me.
Oh,
But just kidding, I'm serious.
but yeah,
I'm absolutely serious.
oh
Yeah.
God, so but
Yeah, but I'm
Chloe, how
glad
are-
people had someone to talk to. I
Yes.
the pandemic was
It's
rough.
important, yeah.
It was-
Pandemic
it was
rough.
Check on your strong friends. You know, it's
Yeah.
not always those that are very vulnerable. Sometimes your strong friends are also going through things
Yeah.
internally, and they need that support as well. I know that sometimes I find myself like, wait, who's there for me?
Mhm.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Let me do
Yeah.
a check on my circle because I'm here. You can come to me, you can talk to me, but who can I go and talk to right now? You know, so
Because you're a
Yeah.
leader,
Yeah.
the leader also needs support.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I got lucky. Well, I'm also a Sagittarius, so I'm ruled by luck. Every time I talk about the women in my life and why I'm so obsessed with sisterhood because I could not navigate, and including my husband, I could not navigate or be anything that I am if it wasn't for them. And I say that from the core. I went through such a bad depression with my last son. And actually, someone in the audience asked me how I was doing. And I was like, I'm not good. I didn't, we met one time before, and I was just like, I didn't want to say fine. I just didn't want to say fine.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not doing well. I'm in the depression. I've been in my room for 4 months. It's dark in here, and I haven't combed my hair, and this is what I'm going through. And on top of that, by the way, I have a vitamin D deficiency. Literally, this is what I said to her.
Oh, Lord.
And she said, you need to check out that vitamin D deficiency because there's a correlation with depression and the vitamin.
Yeah.
And I would have never known that if I wasn't transparent. I would have never known that if I felt like I always had to be, strong in every moment, which can be a feeling when you're in a place of leadership.
Mm.
Like you can feel like I can never say that I'm going through anything because then I can't lead these people, or in my case, my insecurity is that I'm not worthy because I'm going through this emotion.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't allow myself to feel certain things. I wouldn't allow myself to go through certain things, and it stopped a lot of self-care for me. And after I became a mother and my maternal instincts was expanded, now it's like, I want to make sure that my sister doesn't have to get student loans or spend money or this, that, and the other, and she deserves the best, and my mom deserves the best, and now I'm like, everybody, I'm like, Oprah, you get the best life, you get the best life, and I'm not looking to myself, and thank God for my community. It's like, well, what about you, Ashley, right here? What about you? You're worrying about me, and then Silver, my kid's godfather, her boyfriend, sis, I'm coming over so that we can work out together. Because I need you to, we're going to make all this money. You're not here to spend it. I need you to take time. And I'm like, well, I just need a little more time so I can get a little more work in. That was my definition of self-care.
Yeah.
And that's why when you use the word workpreneur, I resonated so well with it.
Yep.
But for the wrong reasons. You know what I mean?
It's all
I'm
right.
like, that's what I am to the core.
Yeah.
Self-care for me looks like being alone with my laptop, like I'm like a romantic getaway. That's what
That is
self-care looks like for me.
hilarious.
It did.
You in the hotel and
In lingerie. Me and the laptop running off to
But
Mexico.
see, if you schedule it and design it that way,
Okay.
then maybe you would feel a little better about it.
Well, the thing about it is that I feel too good about it.
Mhm.
It's the separation from the laptop
Yeah.
that I can't that causes the anxiety. It's the space of not filling that time with something productive or what I conceive to be productive.
Yes.
So I looked at only the things that were monetary or that built career. I only looked at those things as productive or necessities. Anything outside of that was a waste of time. And that's where my self-care went. And now it being drilled into me so much. And, Alexis was like, "Girl, did you call the dentist? Because I know you told me your teeth hurt the other day, and you still walking around with this hurt tooth. And I'm gonna hold you to it to make sure you go to the dentist." And actually, like, "Did you drink some water today?" It's like that community. Again, for me, I'm very lucky, and this is why I started Women with Voices, because I realized how that helped me. How having these women in my life, how having all of you guys motivated me in a way and kept me accountable of taking care of myself and helped me through motherhood and helped me through entrepreneurship and helped me through marriage without the sassiness. Again, I got lucky where I have real women, not the cliche of what they tell you women on the cattiness and no, I have real women in my life. And I wanted to create a space where other women could meet real women and get that support, because there's so many times where we hear things like women are too competitive or they're so catty, and we don't hear like women possess such a magic that when we come together, nothing can stop us. Which is why they were hanging us as witches and stuff like that back in the day, because of that power that we conjure when we come together. We're multifaceted, we bring life here. And even those who are barren, let me say that. You still have that magic.
Yes.
You still have that magic. It doesn't go anywhere just because you haven't physically done that. You are still a part of us, from motherhood to sisterhood. So I say that to say this, like, finding those parts are easy for me. Creating something, manifesting something, branding something, marketing something, opening another business. Those parts are easy for me. Sitting still and saying, let me make a doctor's appointment. Is one of the hardest things to do. Let me go to the dentist. I don't have time for that. That's just because then I gotta get the needle and my mouth is gonna be numb. I don't have time for that. It's gonna put me out of commission too long. So self-care has been one of the hardest things for me. And with the expansion of being a mom and wanting more for just my community, it's been even harder.
Yeah, I really enjoy all it. This is awesome. So, okay, I guess, so from this space, because you all seem to care for the community. So in caring for the community, do you feel like sometimes you miss out on caring for yourself? She does. She definitely does. How about you? You too,
absolutely, because we're always thinking about what to give, right? So we're always giving from inside of ourselves, and we find ourselves with an empty cup a lot of times. So absolutely, it's like almost an oxymoron, because it's something that's very difficult, because it's a lot of energy that we're exerting from ourselves, but it's so fulfilling at the same time because it's a part of our purpose.
Absolutely.
So that's like, the struggle a little bit with it. But yeah.
So hit that right on
Can I
there.
add on to something?
Huh?
Can I add on to something?
Sure.
So my mom, she's a very giver. That's her thing. Like, she was never somebody who was like, I'm gonna take all that stuff. So I try as much as I'm gonna get emotional. I try as much as possible.
We're here for the emotions.
I try as much as possible to give her the most love that she needs.
Oh,
Because I know how she goes
God
to work and
bless
she's
you.
like stressful and all that
This
stuff.
is too much.
And it's like, everybody in our house is like so chaotic. So we are
must be
each
hard for
other's
her.
safe space. So it's like, I try my hardest to, keep her happy, like show her my achievements so she's happy.
And this is why I want a daughter so bad.
Oh, this is too much.
Oh my God, boys' moms.
And
They'll show you it in another way.
Yeah, they
But that
will.
was
They're great kids.
And you know what? She's absolutely right. Like, she has become my anchor at home, and my place to,
I feel
my
like that's how it is with me and my mom too. She actually told me that, like I am that anchor that keeps her grounded, and she is my moon that's anyone knows me, know that's what and she's literally my moon, as I tell you, I'm Virgo moon, and she's a Virgo. So I feel like that also, even though we're mother and daughter, this is also an aspect of sisterhood.
Yeah.
And that's why that relationship is so, strong and represents that. Like my mom always says, it's great to have boys, but they're not gonna bathe you in the tub when you get old.
That is hilarious.
I was like, it's true, Mom, definitely when she gets older, but I definitely don't think the boys will, right? I never thought about it until you said it. Oh, man.
But Sue, I must say, even though you are a workpreneur, look at the result of just who you are and what you did. She's amazing.
Yeah.
Just from what she's saying, I already know enough.
Listen, that's a testimony right there.
Yes.
And I love her for that, and thank you for sharing that. That fills me because
Yes.
I was not there a lot of the time. And we had these conversations because I was working a lot. I was like the main breadwinner. So, I missed out on a lot of stuff. Like sometimes I look at my children's baby pictures and I'm like, what happened? Where'd the time go? So
Mind you, I'm looking at my kid like, where's the time not coming?
Right. So that was great to hear that.
That is everything. I enjoy the thing with you. Oh man. So Alexis, for you, I mean, you're giving so much to your community, and like you said, you're an empath. So this is your body, and in that body, you're holding space for all these women.
And feelings.
So I'm like, I could imagine why some days you say, you don't feel so great. But how are you, I guess, prioritizing caring for yourself? Because you know that you have to. In order for you to pour into your community, you have to pour into yourself. So what steps are you taking, and are those steps working so that the audience will, could know a few things that you're doing?
Well, I had to get to a point where like my body was literally giving out.
Oh, okay.
It's just like chronic migraines, my back, like it hurt all the time. I had to like either be sitting on a heating pad or having ice on it. So I started going to physical therapy, and just, it's like your body doesn't lie, it tells you about the pain. And so I hired an assistant to go through my DMs, because what I was doing was I'd be reading and I'd get, hey, can you help me with this? Like, someone going through a tough thing at 1 a.m, and I'd be like, well, yes, I'll sit with you through this hard moment. And so it would be 3 a.m. when I would go to sleep, and with a stranger, all the way in Malaysia, let's say, and I'm like, do you know any like close mental health places that you could call right now? Because it might be an acute situation where someone really needs to get, and I don't know any places in Malaysia. So it would keep me up at night. I'd be like, are you okay? And I'm not even equipped to deal with that. Like, and I'm not a therapist, and I always say that first. I'm not a clinician, I'm just another mom who's been through some dark places, and I can also tell you, like, I'm just here to listen and take this in and share space with you. So at a certain point, I had to accept the fact that this was hurting me physically, and hire somebody to go into those DMs and set some boundaries. And that was over last summer. And that's what I did, and it's definitely helped. It's cleared mental space. It's helped me physically. You can't do everything. You can't take everything on. You're just one person. And then I think when you realize that it's taking time away from your family and from your kids and from your ability to be happy and joyful and present with your children who are just full of joy, at least the 6-year-old, 7-year-old is. My 9-year-old is just like, I was like, I have to make a choice.
I love that. I was gonna say, especially as an empath, I'm not one myself, but I chose to retire from empathing. But I know that what's most important is boundaries, because you're taking so much into your body. It's just like once you hear the story, automatically you're connecting with it. And I realized for myself, because I was once an empath, that I had to create a boundary where I can hear your story and simply hear it.
You can unbecome an empath?
Oh, I absolutely
I can't.
Block out, you can.
Absolutely. It's not hard, it's a daily work, but I had to create a barrier between hearing your story and not letting it come into my spirit. Not letting it come into my spirit, because before it would be, that's what it would be. So now it's just like, I can hear your story, it can just, I'm just a space to hear it. And that's why I'm so happy that you mentioned one of the techniques for self-care for you as an empath was a boundary, and then also that boundary being, I'm gonna have an assistant now to check my DMs because this is actually physically hurting me, and this is not a safe space for me anymore.
Absolutely.
Because you're not feeling well. So I definitely appreciate that self-care tip. Boundaries.
Yes.
Boundaries.
And boundaries can go, like, for me, I had to stop watching the news for a while. We spoke about that. Yes, I had to stop watching the news. I had to stop watching the news for a while. And but then Instagram became the news. You couldn't help, what you have been avoiding on TV, it just flies up in your news feed. And during my pregnancy, in that dark, dark place, in that dark, dark room, being sick all day with all these deficiencies, the George Floyd situation happened. And I felt it, like when he cried out for his mother, I felt it as if I was on the ground and people were on my back. The fear of never seeing my mom again. And so I felt it in the moment. And then I felt it in my womb. And then I looked at my children and I'm like, I'm the mother of 2 Black sons. I'm in a place where I look at my kids as angels and this country looks at them as monsters. And that realization, because I just found out I was having a second boy. I knew before that I was having a girl. We had pictures from her and everything. The blood test came back. I was like, oh, this must be a mistake. 99.9. Well, there's that 1%. Mr. Brightside. And I had to have 4 sonograms, in which one sonogram they wrote on his penis, still a boy. Like she had to put it's still a boy. She wrote it on my sonogram. And that realization, I love my son. I wouldn't trade him for the world. I love Knight. But that realization of and they're big kids. So like King is 4 and he's wearing a size 6. Knight is 7 months and he's wearing 12 months already. So we're talking about the fear that they put on TV, the big Black men, and I just hosted 2 of them into this plane. In my depression, feeling what I felt watching this go viral of this happening. And then I became overly obsessive with my husband. Were you going to the store? Put your camera on. Matter of fact, Instacart. What you need from the store? Let me put it on the app. I didn't want him to go anywhere. I had this anxiety from before just being here, because everything from going to school with metal detectors to police in the schools builds trauma. And when it becomes a norm for you, you don't realize that you're in a traumatic situation. And when we think of post-traumatic, stress disorder, we think about people who go to war, or we don't realize that we're constantly in a state of war as being a underprivileged minority and the experience we're having here. So I couldn't recognize any of that stuff. So to me, bringing it back to self-care is that that's for wusses, because we've withstood this. Friends have been shot, people have been killed. This is what's going on. What am I crying for? Because I have to work hard. And I built that into me. I felt like I didn't have the right to complain about anything. I didn't have the right to be tired when this stuff was happening. I didn't have the right to especially envy a Black woman and say that I need self-care. Self-care what? You better get to work, you better make the name for your people, you better, and I carried that on my back. And I was not just doing myself a disservice, I was doing every other woman, Black, white, Latina, every other woman who had a story that came from this, who had a story that came from that, who had ancestors that went through this, that felt that. I don't have the right to, because my grandmother was only able to come here with 10 cents in her pocket and had to this, that, and the other. I don't have, and I had to realize that that's just not my story. That's not what I want to identify with. That's not even being a good leader and showing people how to live their lives. But it was a part of that traumatic experience that built that hardcoreness of anything that wasn't hard work, anything that wasn't do or die was weak. And I couldn't identify it being weak because my people were going through too much and I didn't have time for it.
That's good.
And realizing that was the weakest, that was the weakest thing I could have done was be that.
I mean, I think,
Yeah, no, go ahead.
the only time you were ever weak was pregnancy.
Yeah.
Brought you to your knees.
To my knees, Alexis. You said it right, to my knees.
But if it weren't for that, you probably would have kept going until some other major trauma that you
Absolutely.
couldn't help because it was
Absolutely.
physically like your
And
body.
that's why I also say, I always tell Cash and tell my sister Chelsea, my son Knight spiritually meant something different to me. Knight keeps me present in the moment. Knight makes me aware. I don't know what it is, but something about his spirit brings me into what's important. Not to say King didn't. King gave me ambition and gave me Red Bull wings to fly, like, you know. But Knight keeps me present and grounded.
I love that.
And and their name is King and Knight, but Night and Day. But you know, that's what he did for me, and you know, that was my journey, and I had to go through that. And I, you know, watching people die around me left, right, and center, it was like, what am I came here to work to death. This can't be my experience here. Like, this can't be what I came here for, just to do this. It just doesn't make sense. And also, being a part of Women with Voices, one of our initiatives is to build a diverse space. So it's not just space for Black women, it's not just space for minority women. And having that live here, speaking to Jewish women, speaking to Irish women, and listening to their stories, there were so many similarities of how their grandparents were oppressed, what they weren't able to get here, how they've been oppressed by this country as well by not being natives of this land.
Yes.
Even speaking to some of my Jewish friends like Ellie and what's going on in Palestine, that's how it's affecting her, even as a white woman here. We have so much in common of the pain that we're sharing. So I don't want to own that pain of all my people. I identify that we need to help, but we all need to help in every situation. And once I got right with that, I was like, now I got to get right with me. Because where am I showing up to help with teeth? The teeth falling out of the conversation. My knees ain't good. My back is hurting. You look like you need help, Ma. You don't look like you get You look like you need help. You look like you need nothing.
But isn't that funny? Because a lot of the time, power is associated with it's a full package.
Right.
And that's why I feel like a lot of the times, like I know you were kind of hinting at the fact that you weren't okay when COVID started. So how can I approach these women? I have no idea.
Absolutely.
What do I do?
Right.
So
Because everyone was losing family members, everyone was losing people in their lives. And it's like, how do I console them? How do I almost became numb, I felt. There was a period of time where I was like, do I even have emotion? Like, I think actually I was talking to you ladies the other day on the phone when we got together. I cried for the first time in like over probably a couple years. The other day I just broke down. And I was like, I felt happy. I was like, I have emotion. I was like, I have emotion. Okay. Like, I'm okay. I'm normal, you know? And that's why I felt like that. I just felt like, how do I console, you know? But I want to go back to what CLOE was saying about not being okay with feeling like it's okay to feel tired, right? I think a lot of us have been conditioned that it's not okay to be vulnerable. And we don't know how to distinguish gratitude, right? Be grateful for everything you have. Be grateful for everything you've done. But it's okay to feel tired. It's okay to feel like, you know what, today I really cannot help you today. Today I'm going to have my assistant look at my DM and I will come back to it. You know, it's okay to feel that way.
I'm so glad you said that, because the thing I would say to people when they're like, oh, because especially if like a deal isn't going through, I was in Vegas for my 30th and something didn't go right. And everyone went to the club and left me for my birthday because I didn't want to go. I would not go out. I would not celebrate anything. I will not allow myself joy or happiness if I don't close a proper deal, if I don't bring something that I wanted to my team. I can't live I can't experience happiness through that. And I would always say the reason why I work like that is because I'm grateful that I get to do what I want to do for a living. Like literally, if I thought about socks today, I'd find a way to make my socks unique and sell to my people and I'd make money from it. I'm like, my socks are the best socks. They're organic, they're this, they have THC infused in the thread. So they have, you know, my socks are gonna be different. So having that gift, having that ability. I know that people don't have that. So I didn't have the right to take days off because that within itself was a blessing. And I didn't want to seem like I wasn't grateful for the blessing. So the fact that you said that really hit home to, listen, be grateful, but be rejuvenated as well, like, be grateful.
Gratitude
Don't
is
go
a
crazy.
feeling, right? Gratitude is an organic feeling.
Yeah,
So
it's not an act.
It's not an act, exactly. So just because you're not executing that particular thing you want to execute at the moment, it doesn't mean that you're not feeling gratitude inside and that you're not, grateful for this ability that you have, this special talent and things like that. And that's what we need to recognize. Because I also go through that as well.
Yeah.
I also feel sometimes like I'm inadequate, like I'm not putting enough effort, like I'm not doing enough, and it's like, I have to bring myself back, but I've also been reading a lot into that. So it's kind of helping me, get on that journey.
Because this will never stop if we don't put like you said, a
Exactly.
boundary on that.
Absolutely.
I met a man that was 91 when I was in my 20s. He was a Sagittarius too. And we're just crazy. We always have great ideas and we're going for it. He was 91 going on 92. He owned the whole floor of the building on 50-something Street, not too far from Grand Central. Every tenant, every law firm paid him rent and he owned there was no need for this man to go to work. Let me just say that. But because enough was never enough for him, he worked till the day he died.
Okay, now.
He worked till and that's what made him happy.
That was his fulfillment.
That was his fulfillment. But you gotta really look to see, like, is that what my journey is here? Like, did I come here to work until I die?
Right.
Like, he came in I'm like, why does old man not stay home? Like, you own all this stuff. Nobody running with the money, they gotta pay you your rent. Why you don't go on vacation? You're gonna be somewhere. Like,
Because he probably thought that was fulfillment.
And some
but
people
that
say
was really replacing a void in his life.
that's what it is. Some people
That's
feel like
what it
if they
was.
stop working, they'll die. Literally,
Right.
I've heard people say that, but it's just finding those healthier things, and you can work on things. Like, it doesn't have to mean that you go into a law firm. You could be working on a book. You could be working on a screenplay. And it doesn't have to be that the screenplay is going to be on Broadway and be a bestseller. There's fulfillment in just finishing something.
Yeah.
There's fulfillment in just execution. That's success within itself. And it's just a mindset of how you have to look at things, because these things will drive you crazy. Looking at what this one's doing, looking at what that one's doing, and I'm not doing enough because this one got a Grammy and I got just a nominee, so it's never gonna be enough, no matter how great you're doing. So that is another thing that needs to be setting in boundaries. It's just understanding that and that mindset of what the definition of success is and accomplishing that.
Right.
I stopped looking at, sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
You go.
No, I was just gonna say, how they say, like, you are your brand, right?
Yeah,
So you have to take care of yourself. That is your success for the day.
absolutely.
If today you went to the doctor, to the dentist, did this and that for yourself, that's success right there. Because
Absolutely.
now you're gonna feel better. You're not gonna be dwelling that you have to do all of these things, right? They're not gonna be in the back of your mind, kind of bothering you, like, oh, I have to get to this, I have to
Or
get to
now I
this.
can chew.
Yeah, now you can
Just
choose.
simple things, right? I can eat.
To choose.
Yeah, I deserve not to have heartburn because the food
Right.
is not crushed.
That is so
I think I
hilarious.
deserve that.
But oh man, thank you ladies so much. I feel like this needs to be a conversation that happens more than once.
Yeah, right.
Because there's so much to be said, not just about being a mompreneur, but just work life in general, how to create balance in your life. You don't have to be a mom. This is something like what you were saying is something that ties into everybody's life. We have awareness, we have boundaries, we have learning to pencil and schedule things down. These are not just tips that help moms, it helps everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like this conversation just needs to be extended. Okay, but I guess before we leave, I really want to hone in on, motherhood and being an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
So if everybody can give one tip that really, really, really helped them, that you haven't mentioned thus far, that helped you as a mom and as an entrepreneur, and we can kind of end it on that note. So as a mom and an entrepreneur, what is that one thing that you've done that really helped you to hone in on self-care and getting right within yourself so you can show up better for your kids and for yourself and for your community?
That's a great question. What's the one thing? I don't know if there's one thing, but I I think because of what I went through in the past in my life and in my, my abusive relationship, I think once I found my voice, like women with voices, and once I started feeling confident again about myself and feeling more comfortable with who I was and going back to my core and just walking with my head held up high and just being okay with being who I am and being okay with that, even that journey, and knowing that didn't define who I was. And, I define who I am. I say what my story is, right? So I think once I got to that point, I think to answer your question, just being fully transparent is kind of what helped me with both entrepreneurship and motherhood, because I was able to be transparent with my children also. Because them experiencing that at home, I didn't want them to pick up those bad habits, right? So I didn't want my son to turn into that person. I didn't want my daughter to accept that, right? And then I also wanted that to also not affect them in the way where they felt like I come from a broken home, so I'm a broken person. So I think just being transparent and showing up with authenticity to my children in my workspace, in my entrepreneurship journey, I think that's probably what helped me.
Come on now.
And you sort of attracted, when you changed that mind, you sort of attracted different things. Because right around that time is when we awarded you, and you told me that you just went through that, and then I felt it. And I'm like,
So really quickly, I do want to share that because it was very special. So at that time, I knew I was working on my purpose already with Fearless Women, but I was feeling really low because I was still transitioning out of that situation. So I, again, wasn't feeling adequate, wasn't feeling happy, very depressed as well, a lot of anxiety. And CLOE reaches out to me and she's like, I'm holding Women with Voices and we want to honor you. And I was just like, God,
I love that.
He brought me right back. He centered me back, brought me back right back to my purpose. So yeah, I always thank her for that.
But that started with her mindset, so it wasn't me. That's why I definitely didn't say for a shameless plug.
Yeah.
I said it to put the point on when she accepted who she was and she wrote her story. Everybody was able to see that. And seeing someone isn't an I thing. I felt from where I was when we were going through nominees, Sue Phillips dropped into my head. I'd met her and with her organization. I had no clue what her personal journey was, but I found out when I made that phone call. So even me sitting on the phone like, wow, I didn't even know that this is what this meant. So you will align with what you're supposed to, and the people that you need will attract, but you gotta first accept it and create that mindset, and everything else will fall into place.
Because that's when I started to become comfortable sharing my story around that time.
Come on now.
Yeah.
I love that. So transparency and honesty with yourself. That's awesome.
Vulnerability and transparency.
Yeah.
Which is hard.
So powerful.
Yeah. Alexis.
I worked a ton when my kids were little and really missed out. I resonate a lot with what you were saying. I feel like I was never there. I was just really building. I didn't know what I was building. I just knew I had to make something. And I was not happy either. And I was never present. And when I was home, I was thinking about working. And when I was with them, I wasn't really playing. I was still thinking about working. And then when I was working, I was feeling guilty about not being with them. And so just at some point, recently in the past 2 years, I made a mindset shift. And I was like, when I come home to be with them, I'm going to be with them. I'm not going to look at my phone. And it became a practice where I just even forgot I had a phone. And my husband would be calling about something. He'd be like, I've been calling you and you haven't picked up. And I'm like, I don't even know where my phone is, when he came home eventually. And it was great because then we started having dance parties and playing board games, old fashioned stuff. And now my anchor is putting them to bed and then reading a story with one and then cuddling with my older son who doesn't talk to me all day, but then when I'm putting to bed, he'll tell me all the things on his mind and put his arm around me, and it's the best. And that has been so nourishing. And then I can get up the next day ready and energized to do more and actually be there, because I know that I've spent some real quality time with my kids instead of thinking and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So, I'm trying not to be regretful about what I missed and just be grateful for what I'm here for now.
I love that. So being present. And actually being present is a form of meditation. So you were doing it without even thinking that you was doing it. So I love that.
I meditate.
I love that. Come on now. I love that. So we have, and all it's so far, it just really seems like you have to make a choice.
Yeah.
So you made a choice to be present. You made a choice to be vulnerable. You made a choice to be transparent. So that's wonderful. Chloe, what do you have for us before we go?
I think I've made a choice to be presently vulnerable. So I had to make a choice to be transparent with myself. And I think I lived my life more so on what everybody else wanted and what made them happy. And it made me happy to make people happy, right? So I had to be real on what makes me happy. And once I started having those real conversations with myself, like, I don't like noise, right? And I own a music production company. So everything within me doesn't, translate. So I'm like, I have to build a space that makes me happy. Now, I want my sister to be comfortable. I want my mom to be comfortable there, but eventually she will marry, find her man, and leave. These kids will find their life and leave. My mom, God bless her heart, when we can find her and she's in New York, you can be comfortable there. So I'm like, what makes me happy? What do I need outside of how it affects everyone else? And then once I get to that, then I can, filter in everyone else, because of course it's still gonna make me happy that everyone else is happy. But I had to have the real conversation of figuring out who I am independently outside of helping everyone else and pushing everyone else and making sure that everyone else is happy. What ultimately makes me happy. And that's where I had to be transparent and a bit vulnerable, because some of the things that I thought made me happy, I also thought was stupid because, you're strong, you shouldn't feel it. You should want these things, and this is materialistic, you're past that. And I'm like, no, I want spa days. I want that 4,000 bag. I know that it sounds like a bad decision to you guys, but it's actually at the vintage, it becomes an asset, right? So it's an investment, so I had to really be comfortable and vulnerable with the things I want, even if they were material things or whether they were health things, and be okay with it. This is who I am, this is what I want, and I'm gonna do what I need to do to obtain it. Prior to that, it was a bunch of guilt, like, I could have gave this to, this $100 to like 10 homeless people to spend this 10,000, like I would go through those things, nothing for me, everything for everyone else. So I had to have a real conversation on where that was coming from first and why it was happening, and like that, listen, it's okay to want things and to like other things. It doesn't make you less of a person or egotistical or self-centered or any of those things that,
It actually lets people kind of be more joyful around you to see when you're being joyful. Like, let's say, like, oh, I got this bag. I love this bag. Doesn't this bag look great? Do you like this bag? They have just like, oh my God, I love this bag.
You see, I was the person who would give you I wouldn't have a problem spending $4,000 on someone else. It was just a problem when it came to me, because it's like, you know better, you don't need it. Someone else, it's okay for you to do without it. You're fine. But this really makes this person happy. So let them have their happiness. But I'm like, it really makes me happy too.
Yeah,
like, right?
I want to see you happy.
It kind of makes me happy too. I think I want one for me too.
Exactly.
So,
Can I add one more thing?
Please.
I think the ultimate thing here is investing in your happiness and self-care.
absolutely.
Yeah, I remember my mom used to, back then when I was going through all of my trauma, used to look at me all the time and say, are you okay? Like, you're not happy. Like, you don't look happy.
Did she know what was going on?
Not
She just
to
felt
a certain
something was
degree,
wrong.
because I held it back. I withheld that information. But all the time she used to say that to me. And I used to say, I'm okay. But I wasn't, right? I was fulfilling my time so I wouldn't feel my feelings with work, with running around, my children doing, all of these things. But yeah, I think the idea here is to invest in your happiness and in your self-care.
And not go to the condition of because it's a natural thing to say, how are you? I'm okay. That was our first conversation. I was like, how are you, Alexis? She was like, I'm good. And how are you? I was like, I'm not. You were like, well, since you brought it up.
Right.
And then that's how we started spelling, because it's the same same thing. It's like being okay with not being okay and being. Now, you don't have to tell everybody your business,
Of
but
course, yes.
just let them know. Listen, it's one of those days. I'm going through it.
Yes.
I'm a person, and it's okay. And you being okay with that, not feeling. Where does that shame come from? That we feel like it's actually shame. I
know
have
it
to
is.
show up and be
But I was
fine
like,
all the time.
that is a conversation. I was saying this every time you guys literally
We gotta
said
come back for
something.
part 2
I
and
was
3.
like, there's more
Yeah,
to
yeah.
hash because
We
there's
gotta
so
come back
much.
and hash out some other stuff.
There is so much to hash out here. Like we've only literally scratched the surface.
Uh-huh.
Like I really want to dig deeper because you touched on so many
It's a good
parts.
scratch though.
It was a good scratch. It
Because
was a good
we're
scratch.
definitely gonna look for the hotel.
Yes.
Kids looking for the
Yeah,
hotel.
But no, I appreciate you ladies so much today for joining us for our first Mompreneur panel. We touched on a lot of goodness. But at the top of that goodness, it seemed like, all right now, at the top of that goodness, it seems like in terms of self-care and being a mompreneur, the best thing you can do for yourself is to create that mindset shift in your head where you're going to be real and vulnerable with yourself and your people, your community. And also, I just lost my train of thought. Boundaries, okay? And prioritizing your happiness.
Yes.
That seemed to be the most important things that have helped you guys to kind of shift, where things were for you. So thank you all once again for joining us.
Thank you.
There will be more. But that was the first Mompreneur panel, and we're out.